pockets. We got him.
Here he goes. He's gonna get up right here.
Yep. Let him turn his head.
All right, there it is.
Shoot him.
Good shot. Good hammer. As close as you're ever going to get to a Coues deer.
This week on The Zone, it's all about big trophies in small packages.
I know you love pronghorn hunting, and this week you're headed to Idaho to a special trophy tag draw unit.
And my good friend Robert Hanneman was ready, willing, and able to come along with me on this do-it-yourself adventure. But I know you love whitetail hunting, and you really stepped out of the box this week.
Yeah, I got a chance to head south of the border with our good friend Brad Fulk, and we were going to look for Boone and Crockett caliber Coues deer. Well, Coues deer are found in New Mexico, Arizona, and Old Mexico, and a number of reasons made me want to come down south of the border to hunt them. Number one, I already knew Brad Fulk. I knew him as a successful Gould's turkey outfitter, and I knew he killed a lot of big whitetails, so I had confidence in him. And whenever you're going across the border, you need to have that in mind, is go with somebody that you trust. He talked to me about the border crossings, how to take care of the gun permits. He's just a buttoned up, detailed oriented guy, and that's what you need when you're going to go on a hunt of this magnitude.
Put together a really good crew of guides, good setup with our ranches, and put together enough property to focus on trophy quality animals only. And that's what we come down here shooting for, is 110 inch or better.
That 110 benchmark is what he really targets, and that's Boone and Crockett. A Coues deer at 110 inches is Boone and Crockett, so that's pretty strong when you're going out looking for deer that are going to make Boone and Crockett. And you know, I'm not used to situations like that. It's always fun being in hunting camp with a group of guys. And on this one, we had Chris and Garrett Ayer, father and son team. And one morning we got a call that Chris had a really good buck down, so we decided we'd hot-foot it over there and we'd try to get in on the recovery. I didn't know Coues deer could look like this. The mass, he just had everything. Huge brow tines, stickers going all over, just a gorgeous, gorgeous deer. This deer ended up scoring somewhere in the 130 range as a typical. Father and son being together and have a moment like that together, it was just neat getting to watch from the sidelines. I've hunted all over, and without a doubt, hands down, this has been the most optics intense hunt I've ever been on. You can easily sit 10 hours behind your binocular and spotting scope in a day, looking at deer from 2 miles away to 200 yards away, but that's the single most important tool you're gonna have on a hunt like this.
Optics are probably more important than the rifle itself. The scope on the gun, a good pair of 10s around the neck to do short distance glass, and a pair of 15s and a spot and scope to size up exactly what you're going after. Those 4 items are essential for the type of country that we're hunting in down here. And if you don't have good clear optics, edge to edge clarity, you know, you're going to develop headaches and it's going to put you down. If you're not looking through binoculars, you're not finding deer, and that's the key to good quality binoculars, is being able to sit behind them for hours and hours and focus on exactly what you need to be doing.
Making a scrap at the top of the ridge.
there is a challenge. You're having to put in some physical endurance. You got to have some patience and, of course, equipment. You know, you can waste a whole lot of time going after something you're really not interested in, and that's one thing that we try to eliminate. You know, if we're going to dedicate our time and effort on a deer, we want to make sure he's the right one.
So we're going to thoroughly check out a deer before we ever start stalking.
Absolutely. I have every expectation of getting you within 2 or 3 inches of what that deer's going to score.
Well, that's pretty strong. I like to hear
I ain't going to say I'm going to be right every time, but I can get you in the ballpark.
The Zone is brought to you by Bad Boy Buggies. They'll never hear you coming. And by Thompson Center Arms. Nikon. Western Powders. OutfittersRating.com. And Nosler. Load Nosler. Own the shot. This portion of The Zone is brought to you by Purina Mills Antler Max.
Hey, welcome to morning 3 here in Sonora, our Coues deer hunt. This is a great vantage point. You can see just about 360 for way farther than we could ever go today. So we're in the right spot. We just gotta find the deer now.
Boy, Tim, this really looks like my kind of hunt. Lots of glassing and long-range shooting.
Yeah, and it's something I'm not used to living in the East, so I really had to prepare. But the tool I found the most helpful was Nikon's new spot-on ballistics program. I recommend anybody going on a long-range hunt to go check it out. About an hour into things, the sun started coming up, the deer were really moving around, and out about 800 yards, Brad sees a doe and what he thinks is a pretty good-looking buck. And before he ever gets a really quality look at him, he goes over into a canyon. She keeps looking back in there. And we wait and we wait and we wait, and he never comes out. We've got the spotting scope set up, we're prepared, we're gonna get a good look at him, but the deer never comes out.
So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and head south down this next ridge line. Okay. Try to get down to where I can look up those fingers and see if I can come up with him. I know he's probably in there with that doe. There's no reason for him to leave her, but he's the kind of buck that we're looking for. I'm guessing somewhere between 110 and 105. Looked like a real solid 3-point, good mass, good main beams. He's intact, and he's worth going and looking for.
Brad found the deer he was looking for, but not only that, another big buck came out. He thought both of them were well over 110, and that was the class deer we were looking for. He said they sized each other up, and immediately, 15 yards away, crashed into each other. He said they were a half a mile from him and he could hear it. And they just had a knockdown, drag out fight, knocking the skeets over and just brawling in there. All of a sudden, it was over. The loser took off, and Brad watched this other deer go to feed a little bit, and then he bedded down. And by the time we got there, he was laying tucked in, hopefully for the day. So that's when we started trying to figure out how in the world we were going to get into shooting range of that deer.
He's approachable, and I think he's shootable. We're at 358 right now. Got a quartering wind, about 10 to 12 mile an hour. You sneak off this hill just right, and I think we can get you to 300.
Well, normally the zone's a little closer than 300, but with Coues deer, that's getting in tight, isn't it?
That's getting real tight.
We just expanded the zone, so let's take our time. All right, see what we can do. Yeah, just give it a shot. So we just really took our time, worked through the brush, just go really low, really slow, it's rocky, it's dry, you're trying not to make much noise, but finally we crawled in and then the hill just stopped. It actually dropped off into a cliff and that was the end of the road. It was shoot from there or don't shoot at all.
292.
There happened to be a big gnarly cedar right on the edge of the drop-off. I made a great rest for the gun in the front, and then I put my bog pod in the back, and it was just like shooting off of a bench back home. I felt rock steady and thought, hey, we're gonna sit here if it takes 5 hours.
We got some horses coming up out of that bottom off to the right of that deer, about 100 yards, so kind of stay on him, he may get up.
Okay, yeah, I see, he's kind of alert.
I've seen him let him walk right by him before, but you never know.
He's flipping his ears around a little bit. He definitely is watching them.
He's getting lancy.
Here he goes. He's gonna get up right here.
Yep. Let him turn his head. Let him turn his head.
All right, there it is.
Shoot him. Awesome, Tim. Good job, bud.
Man.
That's a great buck.
That's nerve-wracking.
I think your streak's continued, bud.
Oh, I appreciate it.
I think he's gonna break Boone and Crockett minimum.
I'm gonna tell you what, these things just look like miniature whitetails, and when there's a big one, it's a big one. You know, it may be 110 inches, but it looks like a 150 on a 200-pound deer.
That's exactly it. I mean, there's no fooling. When you see one, when he's a good one, you know it.
Oh,
it's just like any other animal.
Yeah, he just looked like a big buck. You know what? I'm about 2 steps from dropping off a cliff right here. How are we gonna get down
This
there?
is about as close as we could get.
That was it. I mean, the road stopped here.
Well, there's time for talking, there's time for shooting, and it was time for shooting.
Yeah,
Good job.
that was excellent. I appreciate it. That is gorgeous.
You really do feel like you've done something. You get something like that in your hand.
Now, I'm telling you what, that was a hunt.
Well, you did good. Made the shot, you got to where you needed to be. That is a
That
good,
thing is
good
beautiful.
goose white.
I just had no idea. I mean, that tine's like 8 inches long or something, isn't it?
He's a little better.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a little better.
Okay, now, the closest road is way out that way.
Yeah, it is. I'm just thinking about that right now. About a mile and a half, I think.
Up
Yeah.
and down and up and down and up and down. All right, well, let's take care of him. And,
You got your legs up.
yeah, whatever. Oh. Here's the buck. Has he got him?
He's got it.
This portion of the zone is brought to you by Thermacell.
Tim, I always thought judging Coues deer would really be tough, but I guess because they're so small, the proportion between antler and body make it like judging any other whitetail.
Yeah, a big whitetail is a big whitetail, whether that's an Iowa or Sonora Coues. One animal I have a really hard time judging are pronghorns. You got any tips for me on how to judge those guys?
Yeah, I do. Take Robert Hanman with you. This hunt in Idaho started actually about a year ago when I called my good friend Robert Hanman from the Magnum Hunt Club. He's our chief tag draw specialist, and I said, Robert, I would really like to shoot a big goat. How can I do that?
You know, it used to be just applying for myself. Then I got married, started applying for my wife, helping my dad and brother and a couple of friends. And then we expanded this into Magnum tags. And now I get to help all kinds of people draw tags. And I mean, it's honestly like Christmas.
In addition to being a tag draw fanatic, Robert is also an antelope fanatic. He's a great field judge, and I know he'll find me good units.
It is the best unit in the state. These bucks down there average over 14-inch horns. There's only 2 non-resident tags. They only give 25 tags total, and your draw odds were 1 in 75.
So I was pretty excited when Robert came by the day before my hunt and said, "James, I just finished my mountain goat hunt 5 days early. I got some time in my schedule." Didn't take me but a moment to accept that invitation, and it was Robert and I heading to southern Idaho. The topography up in that area was a little different than I was used to. The basins were wide, and you just didn't quite have the great stockable situations that I'm used to in the Badlands of eastern Montana. Now, our strategy would be mostly like any other goat hunt, with a twist. We would be hopping on the buggy, going from spot to spot and doing some glassing. But we quickly realized that water was key, and we had an idea that would be the case. And we would just go from one to another and check and see which one had water, which ones had tracks around.
Yeah, you know, most antelope that are killed archery are over water holes.
Yeah, that's right.
So in this desert country, it's just good to check all water holes. And every time we find one, I like to walk around and look for fresh sign, because if you find your fresh sign, then you know you got antelope close. If not, keep moving.
Well, they've been here a lot this summer when the water table was higher. They were drinking a lot up here, but not so much recent.
Let's go find another one.
This country was so big and open, and with just a few goats in the area, we spent a lot of time behind our binos and our spotting scopes. You just really have to pick that country apart.
We'd been looking quite a bit that morning. We really hadn't seen too many antelope. Come around the corner and there's a buck. Right off the bat, I could tell he had tremendous mass, even above the prong.
Now, I know the difference between a decent goat and a good goat, but these guys like Robert that can field judge these things within an inch on the hoof is beyond me. I mean, these guys must spend way too much time looking at antelope. Tough to pass an antelope like that.
That's probably a 74-inch buck.
But I guess when you're in an area like this, you drew one of 2 non-resident tags, you probably ought to look around a little more than 4 hours for your buck.
He was a borderline shooter. He just kind of had a messed up horn on the top. He was a real old buck.
That's what I wanted to see. I wanted to see a big old massive buck.
That's a no question shoot in Montana.
Yeah,
No question.
no doubter. That's some gun had it.
James, this hunt looks a whole lot different than most antelope hunts out west. You guys weren't seeing many goats, were you?
We sure weren't, and that's the thing about these special tag draw units. A lot of them are managed to produce quality over quantity. So if you're going to hunt these areas, you simply have to be ready to hunt a little harder. But you just might end up with a trophy of a lifetime. Late in the day, we found a little 2-track that we thought there might be a water hole at the end of, so we got on the buggy, headed up the 2-track, and we were excited to see cattle bedded right at the water hole. And sure enough, right behind those cattle, standing in line for their turn at water, was a little band of goats. That's some pretty flat country. If we head over there, I'm going to grab that rifle rest for that shooting stick. Bog pot.
Yeah, we got the wind right, but we don't have any cover. We'd have to stay low on the road up to this next hill and then reset up. They're actually feeding up. Looks like they're going to feed up this draw.
Well, here we go. I see that big buck right there. As we circled around under the goats, they actually started walking that 2-track back to us. So it looked like we were in a great situation. And sure enough, they came right in front of us. Okay, I'll take him if he presents well. He's a wing to this. All I got's his head, guys.
Closed captioning provided by Bog Pod, the sticks with the red grips. This portion of the zone is brought to you by Silver Scent.
We could see 6 antelope down there, and right away I could tell one of the bucks was just like a 7-inch buck, and the other buck looked like an average size antelope. Until we pulled the spotter out, and I was able to actually get a look at him, and the back of him stood 3 to 4 inches bigger than that other buck. I knew we were looking at a monster.
All I got's his head, guys. Totally obscured. All I got's his horns. I just don't have an ethical shot here. I was off to the right a little bit, and from my angle, I had no ethical shot, so I decided I can't take this shot. I have to wait and hope he climbs that hill. That's out there a bit. Yeah, that's a ways. What do you got? Is that about 300? If he stops on the hill, I'll take him.
That high brush right behind him is 310 yards.
Okay. Clean miss there, huh? Stop, you bugger. When I squeezed off on the goat, all I saw was dust. I must have shot under him, I thought. It was a 310-yard shot. That goat went on over the hill without a scratch, so I'm starting to wonder if my tag draw hunt isn't going to leave me empty-handed. They winded us and ran up on the hillside, and I took a little warning shot at 310 yards just to let him know that he better be on his A game today because we're after him.
Antelope have a home range. They might have 1 or 2 or 3 water sources in that home range, and it's usually a couple square miles. They're very territorial. So after we'd lost him in the wind, my next goal was to start going to every high point we could in Glasson and trying to relocate him and put a stock on him for that evening.
Robert's plan was to get to the next ridge, get the wind right, and wait for the goats. It was all great, except for one problem. Those goats got there before we did. Okay. Go right over. There's the buck. Has he got him?
Good job, buddy.
You brought me another big one. Good job. Whew. Yeah, he put us through the ringer today, at least me. Squeezed off the shot, and I got that telltale Accubon whop. It was a solid hit. That antelope was going nowhere. Boy, you can sure tell when those Accubons smack, can't you? They have a distinctive sound.
Yeah, I can see a big old hook from here.
Good, that's what I like hooks.
And I knew we were looking at that 80-inch class buck, and right away I knew that I was going to put him in the top of the Idaho record book. That's an amazing experience.
This was a special goat. Certainly the biggest goat I ever had taken. And what's more, it turned out to be number 45 in the Idaho record books on a gross score basis of approximately 80 inches. And when you go on a tag draw hunt, I mean, I got to say, it couldn't have turned out any better. Never boring with you. Thanks.
All right, buddy.
Robert Hanneman, Magnum Tags. Call Magnum Tags and have Robert put you in for desert sheep, other sheep, goats, great antelope units like this. It's so exciting to draw the tag, and then it's so exciting to go to these little gem areas where there's nobody else hunting.
Yep.
Good stuff. Well, now all we got to do is go get the buggy and get him out of here.
So your antelope's going to rank pretty high in the Idaho record books.
Yeah, it is, but Idaho in general isn't really known for B&C goats. Only puts a few of them in the books. So you can bet I'll be out somewhere next year looking for an even better one.
Well, and I'm planning on hunting with Rio Sonora again because that hunt was just fabulous. I don't know that I'll ever take a better Coues deer, but you never know.
The Zone is brought to you by Bill Jordan's Realtree, family, friends, and the outdoors. And by Under Armour. DLC Covert Trail Cameras. Goblin Grunt Outfitters. And the Magnum Hunt Club. Your adventure is our business.